I'm Mike Ryan. Turquoise has only one commercial application, and that's for use in jewelry. But we also have collectors of turquoise who will collect just for having the beauty of the stone. Now, many collectors will collect for different reasons. Many will try to collect only cut cabochons. And then they may further restrict that by collecting only the well-known mines. Others may try to get as large a diversity of obscure mines that nobody's ever really heard of. Some may choose to have just very large cut cabochons, so they want to get the large stones. Some may try to collect only by grade, trying to have a very small collection, but just of the highest gem grade cut cabochons. But you can also collect by mineral specimen. And that varies as well. You have the large rocks, the large rock specimens. You can have smaller specimens. We're going to see in an example here in a little bit of what I call a speci-cab, where you've taken the nugget and you faced it, you've ground off and you faced it. So you have something that's in between a cut cabochon and a mineral specimen. So there's a wide variety of ways to collect turquoise specimens. I don't want to forget, you can also collect the fossil pseudomorphs. So let's take a look at some different examples of turquoise specimens. So we see here a wide range of the examples that I just mentioned about different ways to collect turquoise specimens. And let's start with the biggest first. And we see this beautiful example here of this Bisbee nugget. I got to say, this is probably 5 pounds specimen here. We can see that typical Bisbee matrix on the back. And really here, what is really just a medium grade turquoise in this. But it's just such a huge, large nugget. And I got this from Jeff Lewis, who's a well-known turquoise collector and dealer here in Santa Fe. This reminds me of a large nugget that I saw with Ernie Montoya in his turquoise cave, which is in the basement of Sunwest Silver in Albuquerque. And Ernie had this huge, big nugget. It must have weighed 20 pounds or so. And he told me how he had traded other turquoise to Charles Lolema for this large Kingman specimen. So they can come in some pretty big specimens. We have here an example of a large specimen of Hubei turquoise from China. And this, of course, looks to be perhaps a little bit higher grade. You know, who knows what we'd see if we cut this big thing open. And I'd say this is probably a good kilogram, maybe 3 pounds here. And we see some nice little looks here of what might be in that turquoise wise. Here, a very different example of Hubei turquoise, this one with all the nodules. And of course, this probably, if you were to cut into that, it would just fall apart. It would crumble apart because a lot of the turquoise in this particular formation is the exact opposite of the very highly silicated rock that we have this turquoise formed in, and this would be much more crumbly. Then over here we see this really nice piece of blue diamond, and this again has probably got to be about a kilo, a couple of pounds or so. And this one, of course, probably is something that at some point will be cut because it looks to contain some very high grade turquoise in there. And it has been, you know, you have the rough side here, and then here we see where I faced that so I could get a look to see what might be inside of that big slab of turquoise. So those are some of the larger specimens examples. Then we go down. This is sort of a collector's sample because turquoise is rarely seen in crystal form, turquoise crystals. But here we see this. The one example is in Virginia, in one mine at the, let me read this here. This is at the Bishop Mine Lynch Station in Campbell, Virginia. And look at that. You can probably even see some of those shiny crystals there. So that's kind of a rare specimen. Over on this side, we see here a nice specimen from Orville Jack turquoise. Orville Jack, of course, known for having a lot of faustite. And we can see this beautiful faustite here in this one. I told you I was visiting with Ernie Montoya, who is the king of turquoise right now. And he has all these jars, and I've mentioned this before in part 3 of Turquoise in America, the Stories of Turquoise, which covers a more recent period, 1990 to 2020. We have Ernie telling a story about how he has put all of this rough turquoise, these specimens that he's collected over the years, and put them in these large glass jars, and he has over 3,000 of those. So when you go down in the turquoise case, you see all these examples, and I picked out one of Orville Jack, and I'm talking to Ernie and saying, oh, can I buy one of these? And anybody who knows Ernie, he was, well, no, I don't know. I don't really want to sell any of this. Typical turquoise collector. And he goes, okay, you can buy just one. So I picked one out and I set it down, and he goes, not that one. But he did let me get this one, and it's a really beautiful example of the faustite. So different examples. Let me point out when I mentioned the specicab, here we have an example of a piece of rough, and I got this from Rob Stapp, well-known turquoise miner and turquoise dealer. And Rob has his story as well in Turquoise in America Part 3. And I got this nugget of Ithaca Peak. And so I just started facing it and looking at it and whatnot. And I got this far and I said, well, you know, I can keep this as a specicab. At some point, somebody could make a large piece of jewelry from that because it has a very beautiful Ithaca Peak blue in there. And of course, you might see some of the pyrite sparkling, but it also has the quartz, which is oftentimes a desirable feature in Ithaca Peak. Here's an example of a specicab from Bisbee. And again, you get these nuggets of Bisbee and you think, oh boy, it's all high grade in the nugget. And sometimes you cut it open and it's not. It's just all this brown rock in there. So on this one, I just started facing it and shaping it a little bit. And I got this far and I said, you know, I kind of like this. It certainly has some high-grade Bisbee blue there. It's got the beautiful brownish matrix there. The other thing was when I turned it over and I saw this and I thought, you know, if I cut in there, that may be all there is in there. And that what we're seeing here, all these beautiful eyes, that may be it. So I thought, let's leave well enough alone. I've got a beautiful specicab here, so we'll just leave it at that. I had mentioned pseudomorphs, and we have two examples here. This one is of a clam, the bipods that you have, and I mentioned that in the blog on the geology of turquoise that you may want to take a look at. But here we have the turquoise forming within the fossil remains of a bipod, of a clam. And of course, Carrico Lake is well known for producing a number of those. Here we have in a egg. And, you know, we're assuming, because it's so old, that this would have been a dinosaur egg. And here we see the remains of the turquoise that had formed within that fossilized egg. Another mine that is well known for its fossilized turquoise is Lone Mountain. And there the turquoise formed within the fossilized remains of marine organisms. So we get these tubular marine organisms, and you can really see that demonstrated on the cover of Turquoise in America Part 2, where we have this beautiful Charles Lolema Lone Mountain necklace. So I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at the different ways to collect turquoise specimens, or maybe even some specicats.